Previously on X-Men.
Yeah, that happened. I've been watching X-Men films for so long that it hadn't truly dawned on me that this is a trilogy. In fact, this is actually the second trilogy. So Fox and critics and moviegoers alike have all been describing it as X6. That's X-Men 6. Because, well, it is. It is X6. But in the context of prequel stories, this is the culmination of the second act, if you will. Sir Patrick and Sir McKellen gave us X-Present, and McAvoy and Fassbender gave us X-Past, so to speak, X-Past. Of course, talk amongst the interwebs suggests that this film will be rebooting the franchise, and given some of the curves in X-Men Apocalypse, that is actually to be expected. X7, when they actually decide to do it, X7 will be set in the 90s. So that's something to look forward to. So this is the longest running superhero franchise, methinks. In fact, you could say X-Men is Fox's Star Wars in terms of longevity. The only thing is that you don't have to wait 30 years for a new one, well. This was the closing off of a trilogy, and like the end of all trilogies, this movie was about closure. In fact, to be honest, I actually dubbed this movie X-Men Full Circle. There's a tragedy in the film that mirrors X1, like the original X1, and that tragedy leads to a location and the unveiling of a rage a la X4, which is X-Men First Class. And throughout the film, there are callbacks that are designed to give these characters closure, for all intents and purposes. If we never see them again, basically, there is closure. Charles and Moira, Eric and Peter, Eric and Peter, Alex and Scott, Jean and Jean, and of course, Eric and Charles. Yeah. I still think they're going to eventually reveal that Nightcrawler is Mystique's son, but for now, suffer it to be, as it is. Suffer it to stand as it is. The film also brought closure, even for me, actually, and I'll tell you why. In this film, Jean is about 16 or 18 years old, and we all know about that Jean Scott Wolverine dynamic that goes on. So, for me, it was kind of like, are we saying that 100-year-old or so year-old Logan falls in love with a 16-year-old Jean? This isn't Twilight, so what's that about? But I'm saying, when the interaction between Logan and Jean occurs in the film, I could see that when he meets her again years later, the connection would be set up, and I'm cool with that. So, all around, closure. It's kind of annoying, though, that we had to wait till the 6th X-Men movie to see a hint of the berserker rage that Wolverine is known for. The cameo may have done, this might be me overstretching, but it may have done more than the 5 X-Men and 2 Wolverine films that he was in combined, in terms of giving a real sample of what his rage could be like. He is the Wolverine, and it was good to finally see him, just for just that little bit, just in all his glory. Okay, let's start with the things that work. Bryan Singer. Yes, Bryan Singer. Listen, no matter how you feel about his handling of the X franchise, 2 things are true. A, he has a formula. Unlike some superhero directors. Yes, Yes, I am still griping about that. It wasn't a bad movie, but I'm still griping about that. But you know what? I'm calm. I'm calm. Jeff Johns is in charge of DC now. DC will rise again. And B, X-Men is better with Brian. Let's be honest, X-Men is better with Brian. We've seen what happens when Brian is not at the helm. No. Speaking of, I love how the writers are able to poke fun at themselves. Okay, this is a tiny spoiler. Tiny spoiler. There's a scene where the young people are leaving the cinema. They had just gone to see Return of the Jedi, because it's the 80s, so, you know. And Jean, I think it is, who says something like, everybody knows the third film is always ridiculous or awful or something like that. And I real chuckled in the cinema because the idea of Jean Grey talking about how the third films are always horrible, that was kind of chuckle-worthy for me. When a franchise can admit and make fun of itself, I can relax. Aurora's accent, that's Storm for you non-comic book people, was honestly more believable than her older self.
Do you know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning?
Yes, reboots. I still feel like we haven't fully cracked Storm yet. My knowledge of Storm, or my interpretation of Storm, has always been, yes, she's a mutant, but there's this kind of goddess quality about her, and she's at one with the elements. That being said, I felt comfortable enough with this version of Storm, and I could see her grow as an X-Men, so, you know. Lady Sansa, Lady Sansa, she was along the same vibe for me in terms of the character. Like I felt like there was more that they were holding back. However, there is this beautiful clap my hands kind of payoff that happens for Jean. And I was like, yes please, thank you very much. The thing I had to remember is that this was their first foray. This was their first mission. I mean, up until the turn of events there, Jean and Scott and they were just students. So I had to kind of concede that it might be me and not necessarily the movie at fault for me wanting to experience a full Jean or a full Storm or even a full Scott. That being said though, I did get a full Kurt Wagner of the Munich Circus, also known as the Incredible Nightcrawler. Remember when we first saw those initial shots? I was like, Ivan Ooze has returned. I felt like, okay, alright, so now that I've seen, yeah, like he wasn't Ivan Ooze. If I'm being honest though, false god and villain aside, I can understand his motivations. And honestly, who among us hasn't, sat in traffic or come out of a meeting and thought, I will cleanse this place with fire and water? No? Well, neither do I, because that would be weird.
Together we will cleanse the earth.
Also, I didn't feel like if I was watching Oscar Isaac or Poe Dameron. Yeah, this is important for later. Remember that point, right? Charles and Eric, so I'll just leave that there. There was a tipping point in Eric's full conversion to the dark side, so to speak, that was a little too convenient for me. The act itself, it was very oops, but such as it is, it pushed the story forward. Okay, I'm going to jump to the soundtrack for a moment. In the actual soundtrack listing, it's called Beethoven's Havoc. That and Transcendence is great. If you're into soundtracks as I am, go get it, because it's great. And then too, with it being set in the 80s, you had scenes where you heard Eurythmics singing Sweet Dreams I Made of These, which, you know, that just worked for me, so yeah. Remember when I said I didn't see Oscar Isaac? I just saw Apocalypse. Well, I watched Olivia Munn on screen. That's it. Not Psylocke, but Miss Munn, Miss Olivia. I felt like I needed a little more exposition into the characters somehow. I realized, because you know me, I rationalize everything in the known universe, but I realized that this was the introduction to the new characters. So it's literally just a taste. It's a taste of the new characters. But, and this is just for reference only, when Captain America Civil War came out, they had two powerhouse introductions to me. One was the Spider, who we've seen like 5 times before, and everybody more or less by now knows his origin story. So they had to do this new one, because it's a reboot. They had to do this new one well. And Black Panther, who we've never seen on screen, on silver screen. And they nailed it. They nailed it in terms of, by the end of the film, you knew this Peter Parker. And you knew Prince T'Challa. T'Challa. I'm not supposed to feel like if it was a sample serving, even though it was. And that got me with X-Men Apocalypse. I knew I was being fed spoonfuls, a tease into the characters. You know, this is just enough. You'll see them in X7 when they're more thick. No, I felt that. The only other thing, I don't know if I like the way how Apocalypse was resolved. The character, not the film. The more I think about it, the more I feel they Jean Grey'd him. You know, like in X-Men 3, how they handled that Jean Grey scenario. I think both Jean/the Phoenix and N'Sabar Nur are very powerful beings. So you can temporarily dispatch them, but they can't be like destroyed. And yet the film did that, you know, somewhat. Who knows, he might come back. This film felt a little like 90s X-Men, a lot like X-Men Evolution. And I left IMAX feeling less apprehensive and more satisfied. In fact, if I had to rate the prequel films in order of likability or appreciation at least, it would be X-Men First Class, this one, X-Men Apocalypse, and then Days of Future Past. And in the end, there were hints of the familiar color on each of the costumes, including Mystique with that, you know, Mystique has that white and blue kind of something. Excuse me. There were hints of that at the end. Oh, and there is an after credit scene. And I am happy to report that the majority of the people in the cinema, they stayed, you know, till the end. So kudos, humans, kudos. The scene sets up count them with me, 2 potential storylines. A familiar villain, and a daughter, clone daughter. And yeah, that's it for me. I'm Tracy Prime, Tracy the First, awesome. And this was a review for X-Men Apocalypse. So yeah, see you later, we will talk.